And so we continue with part 5. Now, we left off with the parents making the decision that at any cost, they were absolutely going to not train their kid in sign language. And that sent a message into the universe. Our son is a hearer. Our son is a speaker. We believe in that. He believes in that. Make it happen. While he was in high school, he tried an electrical hearing aid, and it was of no value to him, we believe, due to a condition that was disclosed when the child was 6. When a doctor operated on one side of the boy's head, he discovered there was no sign of natural hearing equipment. So how did he hear even that slight bit? Because of the desire of his father being translated energetically to that kid. That kid knew he would hear because his dad knew he would hear. And that was the constant vibrational message he was picking up from the one who meant the most to him. You see, everybody else around him was also communicating vibrationally and verbally, and in many other ways that he would not hear or speak. Because he had someone that close to him who loved him that much, who saw him with gratitude, believed in him that much, he believed in himself. No one else's opinion mattered, except his father's and his own. During his last week in college, 18 years after the operation, he's now 24, something happened which marked the most important turning point of his life. Through what seemed to be mere chance, he came into possession of another electrical hearing device, which was sent to him on trial. He was slow about testing it due to his disappointment with a similar device. Finally, he picked the instrument up and tried it, and as if by a stroke of magic, his lifelong desire for normal hearing became a reality. For the first time in his life, he heard practically as well as any person with quote-unquote normal hearing. God moves in mysterious ways his wonders to perform. Overjoyed because of the changed world that had been brought to him through this device, he rushed into the telephone, called his mother, and heard her voice perfectly. The next day, he plainly heard the voices of the professors in his class for the first time in his life. Before that, he could only hear if they shouted at close range. We had refused to accept nature's error, and by persistent desire, we had induced nature to correct that error through the only practical means available. And I would say even through some impractical means, because there was no equipment there to hear. How did he even hear that slight bit to be amplified by the device? Their faith and perseverance and gratitude and love and action based upon belief, sustained by confidence, took a situation where the necessary equipment to hear was not even present, and somehow that boy could hear a little bit, to where when an electronic device came out that could amplify it and magnify it, he could hear just like you're hearing this now, and just like I'm hearing myself. There is no doubt in my mind that Blair would have been a deaf mute all his life if his mother and I had not managed to shape his mind as we did. There's the key. Those of you on this site who are familiar with Tony Robbins, you know that by this same method, by desire mixed with faith, perseverance, persistence, stick-to-itness, as some would call it, desire, chief aim, magnificent obsession, you know that Tony Robbins is able to speak for 12, 14 hours straight at a time with vocal cords as thin as this piece of paper. Why? Because he decided that that's the way it is. The world is not what the doctors are telling me it is. My body is not what the doctors are telling me it is. He recreated an entirely new voice box through which to speak, bypassing, in large part, the vocal cords entirely. Because he said, hey, I'm going to speak. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. This is how it really is. You argue with the results. The results speak for themselves. The doctor who attended at his birth told us confidentially the child might never hear or speak. A few weeks ago, Dr. Irving Voorhees, a noted specialist on such cases, examined Blair very thoroughly. He was astounded when he learned how well my son now hears and speaks, and his examination indicated that theoretically, the boy should not be able to hear at all. But the lad does hear, despite the fact that X-ray pictures show there's no opening in the skull whatsoever from where his ears should be to the brain. When I planted in his mind, the author goes on, when I planted in his mind my desire for him to hear and talk, to live as a normal person, there went with that impulse some strange influence which caused nature to become a bridge builder and span the gulf of silence between his brain and the outer world by some means which the keenest medical specialists have not been able to interpret. And I'm into all this energetic woo-woo, and I can't really tell you how it happened. I can just tell you what to do to make it, whatever it is, happen, and it starts with desire. Desire is the foundational building block for anything and everything that you choose to do in life. It starts right there. Truly, a burning desire has devious ways of transmuting itself into its physical equivalent. Blair, the boy, desired normal hearing. Now he has it. Someone with a less defined desire may have been sent to the street with a bundle of pencils and a tin cup. Not this kid. It has been my good fortune to have had the privilege of testing the soundness of the power of desire through the affliction of my own son. Perhaps it was providential, meaning it was sent by God, that this experience came as it did, for surely no one is better prepared than he to serve as the example of what happens when desire is put to the test. How many times have you heard stories about a car flips over with a 90-year-old grandma driving it, or a 5'1" woman that weighs 102 pounds, and she lifts the fucking car off of her child or grandchild, and everybody's like, how could that happen? The truth is, you have the power to be that right now, every moment of every day. I mixed faith with desire for normal hearing, which I passed on to my son. Second, I communicated my desire to him in every conceivable way available, through persistent, continuous effort over a period of years. Third, I would say because of that, he believed me. He believed me. Amazing. He then goes on to tell a story about a woman who was told that she could never be a singer and was one of the most famous singers in the world at that time. Through some strange and powerful principle of mental chemistry, which she has never divulged, nature wraps up in the impulse of strong desire, that something, which recognizes no such word as impossible. Impossible means I'm possible, and accepts no such reality as failure. There's no such thing as failure. Failure exists in the mind of a failure. I am power. I am awareness. I am control. I am creativity. I am health. I am wealth. I am happiness. Believe it. Receive it. Conceive it in your mind. Believe it in your heart. Receive it with your being. Faith is the next chapter, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. Faith takes that which you burn for with the white heat of desire and transmutes it into reality. It starts with desire. The next step is faith. The Bible tells us faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That book was written in Greek by the master apostle Paul, who had a mastery of the language, and he knew that that word meant action based upon belief, sustained by confidence, as Dr. Scott used to preach from his pulpit. The ABC, action, belief, confidence, all working together in unison, spurred on by each other. Action, based upon belief, sustained by confidence. What that literally says, it's the book of Hebrews, chapter 11. I believe it's verse 1. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. What it really says is faith takes that which was only hoped for and turns it into physical substance in this seen realm of reality. And that it works out, faith works out to be seen in this seen physical realm of reality, that which previously was unseen. And that's done by faith. Faith backed by desire, that's sustained by confidence. The action, you have the belief, you have the action based upon the belief, and the confidence that keeps you doing it. That's a great recipe for whatever you choose that's already a reality in some other dimension of existence, to become the seen, felt, touched, smelled, tasted, heard reality in this physical realm of existence. Take it to the bank. Desire is the way to go. Napoleon Hill decided that either his son would grow ears, which had never been done before, or he, despite having no hearing equipment attached to the brain, was going to hear anyway. And it worked. What is it that you would really, really like to do and become? Is it seemingly more difficult than what Napoleon Hill and his son did? Is it a little easier to believe that impossible doesn't exist and possible is all it does? Take it to the bank. I am possible.